Hello, and welcome to another tutorial. We've already talked quite a bit about post workflow, but now I wanted to get a little bit more granular and talk about how we approach post-production on a music video. We're going to discuss a couple topics in this video. First is our basic philosophy behind music videos. Then we're going to talk about how this timeline is laid out. And then we're going to talk about how to sync the audio to the video. And then finally, we will go over a little bit about how we approach our editing. And it's a sort of cut and drop system that accumulates into these multiple layers that you're seeing here. So first, let's talk about how we approach a music video. Music videos usually have two ingredients. Music videos usually have two ingredients. The first is performance, and the other is story or style. And for the story or style, what you're going to see is either some kind of experimental camera technique or special effect, that would be style, or for story, you're going to get some kind of narrative embedded into the video. The one we're looking at today is 99% performance with 1% style, but it's not even really style, it's just B-roll around Kenya. We shot this at Langata and Ngong Hills. We didn't really have the time or money to do a unique style or to embed a narrative into the project, so it's really just performance with some B-roll. That's the basic approach that we take. Now let's look at our timeline. This is semi-built. We're half finished with the video, but not quite finished. But it's enough that we can go over the basic ingredients of a post workflow for a music video. The easiest thing to look at is the audio. Because it's a music video, we are just going with the song, so there's only one track of audio, and that is right here. So that's the audio. Very, very simple. Working our way up, the next thing you will see is something called black video. Now what we have is over here in your elements window, you can create a new item and black video. We've done that. It'll automatically be the size of your timeline. And then we just drag it and drop it in here. We use this for a couple things we're doing up here, and we'll get to that in a minute. After black video, we have some of our B-roll, some of our footage, and you'll notice that the footage starts out kind of flat at the bottom, and as we go up, it disperses a bit more. We'll talk about what's going on there as we get to the cut and drop technique for editing that we use. All right, moving up, we've got, now what you'll notice is audio is green because that's there. It will always be there and it won't change. The black video is green because that's always there and it'll never change. And as we get to the top, we've got something called grain and our adjustment layer. Green and green because these occupy the entire duration of the video and they will never change. Everything in between there, everything that's sandwiched between the green elements is all kinds of different colors, and those mean different things. We'll start simple. The B-roll is this blue color, B for B-roll, B for blue. We'll get to the other colors as we look at the footage, but let's go right up to these two elements. First, we have grain, and what grain is just this collection of film grain. It's not randomly generated grain like the filter in Adobe Premiere. This is actually scanned film grain. You will notice that there are imperfections here and there. Why are we using this instead of the built-in filters? The reason we're using this is because you get a richer, more authentic grain if you're pulling from scanned 35mm. Ooh, look at that richness. Look at that authenticity. Than if you use a randomly generated grain filter. So we get that scanned 35mm film to add a bit of texture. It's hard to see at this resolution. We're going to go to 100%. And this is what it looks like with the grain and without. You'll notice that it just adds a little bit of texture, and when it's not moving, it doesn't make a huge difference, but when the video is playing back, it adds texture and it adds kind of life to the footage that you can't get with digital photography. Digital photography is just a little bit too clean. Now we are doing a bit of a trick here, and that is that we've gone, instead of normal, we are doing an overlay blend mode. And this will bring us back to the black video. When you're in overlay blend mode and you have footage beneath it, that's awesome. It's perfect. It has a really nice effect. But when you have overlay over nothing, you can see the actual footage. Overlay needs dark data for it to appear dark. If not, all the lightness of that scanned film grain will show up on your screen. So we just take a black video track and drop it in, and you'll see that while there's no information, while there's just transparency here, you can see the film grain. But as soon as you add just black video, just absolute darkness, then you can't see the grain, except that you can well, you can't really. Sorry about that. But you can see it having its effect. So that's why we have the black video. Now, after the grain, we have an adjustment layer. And this is very useful for all editing, but even more useful for music videos when you're going to go for a more extreme, hardened style than you might be going for if you're doing corporate videography. And what we have here is the Lummi color effect. Of course, you can use any effect that's in the Premiere library, but we have found this Lummi color library to be so useful that we just slap it on and use that to build our basic style. What do we have on our Lummi? We've got a bit of contrast, and then down in Creative, we have applied the Kodak 5205 Fuji blah 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 film filter. That's what it looks like without the film filter. That's what it looks like with. It just looks good. We're happy with that. And we've added a bit of a vignette. Now, because this is an adjustment layer, it will affect everything beneath it. So instead of building all those effects specifically shot by shot, we've built it onto one adjustment layer. And then shot by shot, we can do adjustments to the exposure, to the contrast. We can do shot-by-shot nuanced adjustments and then rely on our adjustment layer up at the top for the overriding style of the video. So that's how we approach our layout for a music video. And now let's talk about editing. As we get into editing, we are going to turn off all these effects because they just add to the render time and it takes up CPU that we'd rather be using to edit efficiently. Now, for the B-roll, that stuff is easy. You just drop it in where you need it, when you need it, as you need it. Very, very simple stuff. Performance takes a little bit more care to execute, and to do performance, what we look for are hard P's, hard B's, or M's, followed by vowels. Why are these so special? These are essential to editing because the B sound, the P sound, or the M with a vowel make move. There's a snap between when your lips are closed and when your lips are open. Boy, you can't make that oi sound without opening your lips. Player, you can't get to the other sounds after the P without opening your lips. Movie, you can't make that O sound without opening your lips. So what you get we've got the word back there. So when she gets to the ah sound, that means her lips must be open. So the first frame of open lips, that's going to be synchronized with your first frame of ah in the word back. and you can hear where that ah sound starts by stepping using your left and right. Alright, we can clearly hear the ah right there, so what we're going to do is first deselect all footage. We're going to add a marker. If you have footage selected when you add a marker, it will add it to the selected footage. We don't want that, so we deselect all the footage and add a marker. You can double click that marker and name it back. And that's where the ah of back is. So let's see how that synchronizes with the footage. Clear those in and out points because I've been doing this to get ready for it, so that was actually already synced to the ah. Alright, we've got audio from the camera, so we've got the basic idea of where we are. Alright, here we are on the word back, and that's where the lips open. So we set our in point by striking the I key and dropping it at the marker. Let's take a look. Did that work? Oops, we're not on the marker exactly. Zoom in and make sure you're on that marker or it won't work. Alright, that looks like good audio sync, but there's a bit of a problem. You'll notice down here, we brought in the audio from the camera as well as the video. We've got to delete that, and deleting is very easy. Now if you just drag and select, you're going to select the video and the audio because they're linked. Easiest way to handle this is to hold down the Alt or Option key, drag and select, and you'll notice that we've only selected the audio and not the video. Strike the delete key and it's gone. Alright, that's how we sync video. Very, very easy stuff. Let's do one more example, and then we will start getting into the cut and drop technique that we use for music videos. So for this, we're going to go over to Gong Hills. And we've got performance clip 5 selected from Gong Hills. Alright, we're in the intro. Alright, there's that back. There's the frame where her lips open, which allows the ah sound to come out. So that must be our sync point. Delete the audio and get this back to... Wait, what's all that? Ah, and get this back to the ah sound. There it is. Let's go further down the line just to see if it's synced. That looks like it's synced to me, so now we can stretch that out all the way over. And now we have a full performance clip of the entire song ready to cut and drop. Before we do that, I want to label it. You'll notice that we have a lot of colors going on here, and these colors are designed to help us know what we're looking at without having to double click or to go exactly to that spot. B-roll, as we discussed before, is blue, but what are all these other colors? We've got some yellows, we've got some oranges, purples, etc. Now, first thing you have to do is turn off the visibility of this track. Alright, so this purpley color, this magenta, is Ngong Hills, and it's an area of Ngong Hills where we've got some crisscrossing mountains. Now, that's a perfect match for this shot. This is the same area, we've got those same crisscrossing mountains in the background. So, what we want to do is select this footage, right-click, and go to Label, and that would be Lavender. So now we know this is lavender, that must be Ngong Hills, crisscrossy mountains, that's lavender, must be Ngong Hills, crisscrossy patterns. This yellow footage is another side of Ngong Hills, but that's not correctly labeled. That should be a different color. So let's find that side of Ngong Hills, shall we? First thing I'd like to do is shrink the audio portion. Because there's only one audio track necessary, we don't need that much space dedicated to audio. We're going to be using a lot more video space. Let's take a look at this purple and figure out where that is. Ah, that is the wide kind of city area. We were overlooking this beautiful city. Orange, that's what this is. So you'll see that this is the opposite side of Ngong Hills, looking over the more rural area. If you go back over the mountain, you're going to see the more residential areas. So this orange is the rural side of the mountain, and you can tell that this is that's the same side. So we're going to go ahead and select all of those simultaneously, right click, label them probably mango, and yes, that was mango. Alright, so as you edit, you should be labeling your footage the appropriate color so you know what you're looking at, and then you can keep these colors united on certain tracks. We haven't gotten to that level of organization because I've just been editing it as I like, not really thinking forward on how we're going to cut exactly. But let's get to cutting. What we do for editing is a cut and drop system, and how that works is we watch, and then when we find a section that we like, we isolate that section and drop it down to the video track below it. And then when we're done, we delete all the chaff from the source track. So let's take a look at how that plays out. Alright, that's good enough. So what you do is bring up your razor tool, grab that clip, and drop it down. And let's continue watching. Okay, that was a nice delivery of "We Will Endure." So let's just cut it on that snare there. Use the step forward or backward tool to get to that snare, and all right. So then we cut and drop that down. And then we would continue this process for the entire track. Nice. Let's pull that and drop it down. So let's say we watched the entire clip, and now we are done with this chaff. We've got all the wheat and we're happy. You can just select the chaff and strike delete. Oh my god, what if we wanted some part that was in there, and now that we've deleted the chaff, we've lost that part? Easy as can be. Just grab the previous or next clip, stretch it out, find that bit you like, and then take it back. And that should be synced. Perfect. And we love that, so we're going to leave it there. All right. Now, you'll notice that as we do this cut and drop method, it accumulates. So what you do is you scroll up, take your top layers of that sandwich, of the green sandwich, and drag them up to the next track. Now, we've got one more thing I want to talk about before we wrap up on this tutorial, and that is, what do you do when the sync is not obvious? So, for this shot, we were very far away from the subject. There's no way that the playback here was going to get to the microphones on the camera. And also, if you look closely, it's very difficult to tell. You will hear me chattering with the producer in the background, which means the audio is just useless. You cannot hear the performance, so we're just going to get rid of that audio. because of the size, it's really, really hard to tell where she is at in the song. So now we need to get a little more clever with how we're doing things, and we are going to use context clues. So let's go back to the top of the clip. Now in this situation, Swinky was in charge of playback because she had the iPod with her. So you'll see she is going through the playlist and probably selecting the audio there. All right, she's done selecting it, so that means playback has begun. So what we're going to do is go to about, maybe, I don't know, there. That might be roughly where playback began. And we're just going to take that rough estimation of where she hit the play button, and we're going to put that at the start of the audio track. And let's take a look, see what we got. Another thing we can do is instead of going to fit, we can go to 100%, and we'll get a higher quality. We'll get more detail on her and less of the detail on the background. All right, now you'll see she started speaking before the lyrics "I'm having to contend" started. So that means that this starts a little too early. So what we're going to do is drag it a bit. Let's drag it 19 frames over and see if that helps. All right, now it looks like she started a little later. Yeah, it looks like the word having was a bit late there. So we're going to go even closer and take it back 3 frames just to see what happens. Not perfect. Let's see if we can get that back if we have enough detail. We'll even go up to 150% and see what happens. All right, we have a little bit of a clue there. Yeah, that looks like that might be the opening of the mouth for the word A. So now let's step it out. There is the A on the audio track. 1, 2, 3. Looks like we're 3 frames late on the video, so we'll pull that back by 3. That looks pretty good. Let's go later in the song. Good enough for me. So now we're going to go back to fit, and we should be okay. So that should just about do it. Now we are back at the rural side of Ngong Hills, so let's just go ahead and label that lavender while we're at it. That should cover the basics of syncing your audio and how to approach your timeline when you're working on a music video. We're going to close with the question, and that question is, why not do this in Final Cut Pro X? Final Cut Pro has a really good bit of software that it will automatically sync audio between this video clip and that video clip, or this video clip and that audio track. So if we did that, it would be much, much easier. Instead of finding hard P's, B's, or M followed by vowels, it would be very easy to just let the program automatically sync the footage for you. Syncing is the biggest headache when you're importing music video footage. Why do we not do that? There's 2 reasons why we don't do that. And as you've seen, our post workflow for music videos, 2 very, very essential ingredients are color labeled footage so that we know how much we have of each element of the video. For example, if this timeline was 90% orange, that would be a red flag that we're using too much footage from whatever was orange, I forget, from this side of the hill. That should be orange, shouldn't it? Yes, this should be orange. I'm so sorry. Rural side was mango. All right. So if we're seeing 90% orange, that means we've got too much of one type of footage. If we're seeing 90% purple or 90% yellow, that means we've just got too much of one type of footage. The other thing we need are multiple tracks, that we organize our locations by track. We organize our shots by tracks, not just our locations, but also our shots by tracks, and we stack those tracks. Final Cut does not have either of these tools, which makes it very, very difficult for us to execute a music video in the way we like to do it. If you want to use Final Cut, if you feel that the automatic syncing is enough of a benefit, we absolutely encourage you to use Final Cut. They're both excellent software. Just so happens that Premiere is more congruent with how we approach a post-production workflow than Final Cut. All right, that wraps it up. Thank you so much for watching. I hope this was a useful overview about how to approach post-production on a music video. If you have any questions, feel free to leave them in the comments or to contact us directly. Good luck. I hope this helps everyone make more and better movies. Thank you.